Yo, what's going on guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 48 brawlers inside of the game right now and how good they are in the meta. So you've got to bear this in mind. This video was created when only 4 of the new 10 gadgets have been released. So the new gadgets will shift up the meta a lot, especially if the gadgets are OP. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that content, make sure you're subscribed for all future videos on the gadgets. But as you can see, I'm really close to Masters. And I'm also played a lot of competitive. I've been scrimming basically every single day. So I think in terms of the meta, I know it inside and out. And I've also asked quite a lot of pro players on what they think of the list as well. So they've helped me as well. So yeah, before we get into today's video, make sure you're using a create code in the shop. That'd be greatly appreciated if thinking about buying any skins. And also, before we jump into it, this is solely based off 3v3 game modes and only the 6 modes that are actually competitive. So no knockout and no showdown, so you've got to bear that in mind with this ranking. It's all going to be competitive, basically all on Power League maps and basically on the maps that are in a competitive pool. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright guys, so starting off the list with the very worst brawler inside of the game. At number 48, we have Shelley. I don't think there's any surprises here, even with the tank meta. I just don't think Shelley is the greatest. She's supposed to be a tank counter, and although she's definitely the worst one, and she just doesn't win any matchup really against all the other brawlers. She's never picked inside a competitive, never picked in a power league, and just a really hard brawler to push in this meta. So coming in at the second worst brawler in the game right now, at number 47, we have Bo. So he recently has had a change with his gadget, which is actually really good on maps like Snake Prairie. But other than that, I just don't think Bo is good at all. The other good thing about him is that totem. He just lacks basically everything inside of the game. He'll be losing most 1v1 interactions, and I just see no purpose for him in the meta whatsoever. It's been such a long time since I've seen him in competitive once Snake Prairie has been removed, and just overall just offers nothing to the meta. So coming in at number 46, we have Egon. Even with the introduction of his new gadget, I just think that is pretty much trash inside of 3v3 modes. I think it's basically unusable. He's just far too squishy and just basically gets countered by everything. Even if you're going to get a kill, most of the time, you're going to be super weak and you're just going to get traded out, especially in competitive games. You're just going to get pinched so easily because of how weak you are. So Edgar is pretty trash. So coming in at number 45, we have Leon. So you've got to bear this in mind. This is before his new gadget has been released. I think this might increase his viability quite a fair bit in the meta, but I can't really tell from just that. But yeah, Leon, I don't think it's great right now. I've seen him used in a few maps and he's actually fairly underrated. He's not absolutely horrible in 3v3 modes. I just think there's better brawlers that suit his purpose for the assassin type role, and just overall I think his reload speed is a bit too slow, and just people in 3v3 modes just know how to counter him, especially if you just group up, conserve ammo. A lot of the times you're just going to be killing Leon in those interactions. So coming in at number 44 in the ranking, we have a Gale. So again, even with his recent buff to one of his star powers, I thought that Gale was going to actually be pretty decent in the meta, but as time has told, he's really not improved whatsoever in the meta. The only map he's used in is parallel plays on defensive lane, but other than that, I don't see Gale at all inside of Power League or in competitive or even in ladder. Just overall, he's a bit too lackluster. There's just other brawlers that are going to be much better in his situation. So yeah, Gale's still pretty trash in this meta. Okay, so coming in at number 43, we have Squeak. So Squeak, on the get-go, everyone thought he was going to be such an overpowered brawler, but as time has gone on, Squeak is basically nowhere near the competitive meta. He's just awful. He's so easy to dodge his shots. His reload speed is really slow. He doesn't do a lot of damage. Both star powers are really bad. His gadget doesn't really get a lot of value, and his super is probably one of the worst supers in the game. Off the front of it, it looks like his super is insane, but a lot of times I don't even get one connection onto an enemy with his super. His super's only really good against, well, in game modes like Siege and Heist, because you can get an insane amount of damage on targets that aren't moving. But other than that, Squeak just really is a trash brawler inside of this game. Alright guys, next up at number 42, we have Mr. P. So Mr. P hasn't been anywhere close to the meta for a long time now, and especially now that tanks have had that change, they're even more prevalent, so they're just going to ruin Mr. P. He's just got a really bad damage output and just far too gets countered by those tanks far too often. So he's only really used on inside a bounty right now, which is a bit of a surprise. His best moves used to be gem grab and Brawl, but inside a bounty he can actually have some form of usage because he can act as a hybrid, especially against those longer range brawlers and against throwers. But overall, Mr. P just gets hard countered in this meta. So next up, coming in at number 41, we have Jackin. Even with the changes to tanks, I think Jackie's honestly got worse inside of a meta. Her super has not been affected by this whatsoever. She has one of the worst supers inside of a game, so getting that super from incoming damage doesn't really affect how good she is. But yeah, they actually nerfed one of her star powers, the Hardy Hard Hat one, so actually she has less HP than before, so making it a little bit squishy. And now the Counter Crusher is going to be probably the favorable star power, but overall I just don't think Jackie is the greatest. If you're thinking about having a tank, there's just better options like Brawl, like El Primo. I don't think she really serves a purpose in this meta. Okay, so next up at number 40 we have Daryl, and again Daryl really hasn't solidified himself whatsoever inside of this meta. Overall he can be an okay brawler, he's well balanced, but it's not really a mode or a map he actually strives on. Not really seen him in competitive for a long while because, again, there's just better tank options for him in the meta. But overall, it can be decent on ladder, can be somewhat viable inside of Brawl and inside of Heist. Okay, so coming in at number 39, we have Diner. And slowly, we've seen a little bit more of viability with him inside of a meta. He's actually good on maps like Some Assembly Required. He's really good on Triple Dribble and good on Hot Potato as well. And especially if you got a Stu inside of your combination, you can place that Stu gadget down and Dynamite just comes even faster inside of the middle. Honestly, he actually is pretty underrated. I've seen in the past week or so, a lot of pro players actually tend to use him inside of competitive, and he's had some good win rates. You just got to be really consistent with your shooting. There's a lot of brawlers that counter Dynamite, but if played correctly, Dynamite can pretty much dominate. Okay, so coming in at number 38, we have Pam. So Pam slowly has gone down the meta. She hasn't received any sort of balance changes, buffs, or whatever else. And just slowly, there's just been more favorable options for her in the meta. So I believe probably like 6 months ago or so, she would have been in like the top 20, top 15. But over time, she's just got even worse. I think with the introduction of her new gadget, whenever that's actually released, I think she actually can be a really solid brawler. But as I said, there's not really any maps that she really shines in right now. I think her best map is probably like Backyard Brawl. But it's just a lot of crows and a lot of Stews and other brawlers that are just basically just going to feed off her because she doesn't actually do a lot of damage in her interactions. But yeah, that's going to be Pam. Not really the best and most used brawler in this meta. Alright guys, so going into number 37 in the meta, we have Colt. And Colt is a really fun brawler in this meta. A lot of the times I like to use him in combos with brawlers that are really good at long range. So like the Bees, the Pipers, because basically you can, in certain maps, you can just use your wall break gadget and break open the map the way you really want it to. So it can counter a lot of different combos, especially with tanks in this meta. If you have a Colt and then a hard counter to a tank, you're just going to completely dominate. Obviously, Colt is a really high skill cap brawler. Can be pretty hard to consistently hit shots in comparison to other brawlers in this meta. So only really used in fun and unique combos. But I think Colt is in a good spot in this meta. Okay, so next up at number 36, we have Nani. So Nani has had 2 important changes in the last set of balance changes. So basically, she gets her peep quicker by I think 2 shots, which obviously is going to make her TP gadget a little bit better. You can use it a lot more in Heist. That's going to be one of the main game modes that she's actually used on. But inside of Bounty, her viability has decreased a lot because her peep does a far amount less damage than before. You can't really one-shot that many brawlers inside of a meta right now, which is really unfortunate. But in terms of just viability, I think there's just other long-range brawlers that are much better than Nani at the moment. Okay, so next up at number 35, we have Penny. And Penny, I used to think was such a bad brawler inside of a meta. She's had a recent balance change, which has increased her damage. But I don't think this is a balance change that has made her slightly more meta. I think it's the logic change with her turret and Jesse's turret as well. Don't fully know the ins and outs of it, but basically all I can say is that I just know this Penny turret just seems to lock on to me like literally everywhere. I can't seem to escape it. No matter what I do, it's always firing down at me. And that Penny turret, as you guys know, it's so OP. One of the best supers inside of the game. So I've seen a lot of pro teams actually using Penny in Heist and inside of Hot Zone right now. Just a really strong brawler. The only bad thing about her is her slow reload speed. So as always, I'll definitely say to try and preserve that ammo, but she's a really good pick in this meta. Okay guys, so jumping in at number 34 in the meta, we have Jessie. So Jessie's strongest game mode right now by far is Hot Zone. She's actually really strong inside of Hot Zone right now, and especially maps like Parallel Plays. But I just think Jessie is being outshined quite a lot by a lot of different brawlers inside of meta. Well, in theory, she's basically a mid brawler, and there's just way better mids for her in the meta. She hasn't got the most HP right now. It takes her a bit of a time to get her turret, and just overall there's just been slight nerfs to her in every single balance change ever since she was like one of the best brawlers inside of a game, and she's just been decreasing in viability. But overall I still think she's a solid pick in this meta. Alright guys, so now coming in at number 33, we have 8-Bit. So 8-Bit has received 2 significant nerfs within the last set of balance changes. So the first one's going to be his plugged in star power. It's made him from a really fast brawler to basically like a normal speed brawler, especially with that plugged in. It still can be pretty decent with this turret, but also the damage that you actually get within that turret has been decreased from 50% to 35%. So overall, we've just been seeing 8-Bit slowly decrease in viability. He's still going to be pretty decent inside of gem grab and inside of Brawl, and overall I think he's probably been a little bit overshadowed by some brawlers, and I still think that he's probably an underrated pick. And a lot of times when I see him being picked, he is winning those games, so he's still a good brawler in this meta. Alright guys, so coming in at number 32, we have Spike, and with the introduction of his new gadget, I think his viability has increased a little bit. I've not really had a chance to scrim with this new gadget, but I just think overall that it can be pretty viable, especially against those single shot brawlers. The main thing about Spike is that he's super squishy, so allowing him to have that gadget to basically tank from quite a lot of different interactions is actually going to make him a decent lane. Overall, I just think he's just going to be decent inside of his metal. Okay, so next up at number 31, we have BB. And again, I don't think she really excels completely inside of one game mode. She's pretty decent inside of Siege and inside of High. So they're probably her best modes. But overall, I just think she can be good as a hybrid brawler. Like, she's going to be really good against those squishy brawlers because it'll only take a few attacks to actually take them down, and then also synergizes really well with those healer brawlers. So BB overall is just pretty balanced in this meta. Okay, so coming in at number 30, we have Nita, and I think the main reason as to why she's actually pretty balanced inside of this meta is because she counters quite a few of the lane brawlers that are really high on this list. So I don't want to ruin it too much, but basically she's a really good counter to like Tara's pets. She's really good against like with Sandy's, against the M's, and just a pretty overall solid option, especially with the tank meta as well. She's a really good counter to tanks, and especially with that Bruce bear, they're just going to be feeding her bears over and over again, and it's going to be so easy to cycle them, get a lot of pressure, and get a lot of value. So Nita's just a balanced brawler in this meta. Okay, so coming in at number 29, we have Brock. So Brock has slowly been creeping up the meta in viability, and it's mainly due to the fact that Max isn't meta. Max was just meta basically everywhere, and Brock, as you guys probably know, is really hard to consistently hit shots with. But the main fact that the reason why he's meta is because of his gadget. That you could, a lot of times you could literally just hit an opponent and then press that green button and you're going to get a kill the majority of the time. His gadget is just so OP, and we're starting to see him a lot in game modes like Heist, inside of gem grab on lane, and other modes as well. Okay, so coming in at number 28, we have Lou. So Lou right now is only good on 2 game modes, which is Siege and Hot Zone. The main reason for this is because in Siege you can basically get a perfect defense on near enough every single map with Lou with his super. It's just such a super broken mechanic in the game, and basically you can use 2 other brawlers in your composition, and Lou, you always know you're going to get that perfect defense. And then inside of Hot Zone as well, his super just basically covers an entire zone, just allowing you to get control and pressure. That's probably the only reason why he's even meta and why he's so high on the list. Other than that, his shooting mechanics, as always, not really the best, really hard to consistently hit shots with, else he would be higher on the list. Okay, so coming in at number 27, we have Byron. So Byron has slowly been going down the rankings in the meta. The main reason for this is because he's no longer like the strongest mid now. There's brawlers like Jean and Belle that just do a better job than he can do in that middle. But overall, I still feel like he's a pretty solid brawler. He basically synergizes with every single brawler in the game, especially as a mid in game modes like Gem Grab, especially in Heist. When you pair him with a Colette, you can still do some insane damage and synergy with him. Overall, his mechanics are just always going to be pretty OP no matter how the meta is. Okay, so next up at number 26, we have Frank. So he's increased in popularity a lot, mainly again due to the added trait with the last update. So Frank is going to be basically pretty much good in so many different game modes. I think his best mode right now is going to be Siege. There's a lot of tanks inside of Siege right now, and he's got really good offense and defense with his super. He's just able to control so much of the map. His gadget as well just allows him to exert so much pressure on the field. But overall, Frank is a really solid tank across. Alright guys, coming in at number 25, we have Mortise, and I feel like Mortise is one of the brawlers that got impacted by the ammo change the most, and that's because of his Cold Snake star power. Every single time you respawn, it just takes so long to get that Cold Snake again, which is really unfortunate because I do like Mortise as a brawler, but I think overall he still hasn't suffered too much in the meta. I still see him used quite a fair amount. It's just those deaths are going to be so punishing. It's actually got into the Siege meta, funnily enough. It used to be a meme that used to be good in Siege, but it generally is one of the best Siege brawlers right now, mainly because he's just really good at bolt collecting. There's a lot of brawlers in this meta like Sprout and Lou that can just defend for him. He can just get those first bolts really easily, and yeah, I just think Mortise honestly is pretty good in every single game mode right now. So at number 24, we have Poco. So normally in a tank meta, Poco is one of the best brawlers in the game because he synergizes with them really well, but I think in this tank meta, you can honestly just run tanks on their own. Poco isn't entirely needed, even though he synergizes so well. So obviously if you have a Poco and some tanks, you're going to absolutely ruin a lot of the opposition, but on his own, he's not really their most complete brawler. He's just a synergy brawler. He's basically going to be really good on game modes like Brawl, inside of Gem Grab, and inside of other game modes as well, but he's just basically a synergy brawler, and he helps the tanks get even better. Okay, so next up at number 23, we have Carl. I feel like Carl's a very strong brawler inside of the current meta. He did receive a small nerf with the last balance changes, and other brawlers have been a little bit stronger down the lane, but still, he's still like a really balanced brawler. You can basically play him across every single game mode, especially with his flying hook gadget. Probably the best gadget inside of a game. It allows for so much versatility. You can make so many aggro plays, and especially on the brawlers that call hold counter, that gadget allows him to hold counter him even more. He's going to be really good on game modes like Siege because he can use his gadget to get the first bolt, and overall, he's a really good brawler. Alright guys, so coming in at number 22, we have Buzz. So Buzz, I've not really had a chance to play with him too much inside of competitive because he's only been available to scrim with in a week, but just from playing with him for a week's time, I don't think he's like as broken as I thought he would be. To be honest, there's a lot of brawlers that can honestly do really well against him, especially the brawlers that build up their supers really well. Like, for example, like Ems and Tara, they can just wreck him on a lane. But I think when the new star power comes out with Buzz, I think he'll be a top 10 brawler in the meta because you get your super from a larger radius without star power. I feel like that's when he's going to be meta, but at the moment, he's just okay. He's really good in game modes like Siege, in game modes like Gem Grab, because you can basically turn around the game really well. His grapple just allows him to be really versatile around the map. Overall, he's just a balanced brawler in the meta. So next up at number 21, we have Rosa. And although she hasn't had one of those trait changes like the rest of the tanks, well, a few of the tanks, she's still a really solid brawler and honestly so underrated in this meta. A lot of the times in competitive, she's often used on maps like Canal Grande, on harder up mines. She can just offer so much pressure down the lane. Can't really just ignore a Rosa because especially if she's got this slow gadget, she can get so much value and basically confirm a kill every single time with that gadget. So yeah, Rosa's just overall a really strong brawler. Okay, so coming at number 20, we have a Brawler, and again another tank, which was probably the worst brawler inside of the game, and I think he's so strong, especially in game modes like Siege and Heist. He's just so dominant, and you've got to be using his Stomper gadget because basically you're going to be getting your super for free with his traits. So that Stomper basically allows you to get free kills, or even more if you can get even more value, because it's just so hard to actually kill a bull when he's full HP. When he's got the Stomper, there's nothing that's really going to be able to counter it. He's just so strong in this meta, and it's mainly due to his trait. Okay, so coming in at number 19, we have Max. So she has decreased in viability a little bit since the last balance changes because they did nerf a few things about her, a little bit of damage and one of her star powers. So she doesn't cycle supers anywhere close to what she used to do previously, which is really good because it used to be really annoying facing a Max because she should basically have super all of the time and you wouldn't even have to do anything. You could just play really passive and get your super. Now with this Max in this meta, you can use both star powers, run and gun and supercharge are both really good star powers, and it just depends on the map and mode and which kind of combination you can bring out with her. But altogether, I feel like she's just still a super versatile brawler, and if played correctly, can dominate any game. Okay, so coming in at number 18, we have B. B is a super strong brawler inside of the meta right now. Her best modes are going to be Gem Grab and Brawl mainly, but I feel like she can basically be used on most modes if used with the correct combo, especially because there's so many tanks now. You see in so many different combinations, there's a lot of like wall break options, and if you use a wall break with B is just going to dominate a lot of tanks because you can't really jump on a B when she's got her super, she's got her gadget to slow them down as well, she's got 3k shot. There's not really a lot you can do against a B, but overall with this tank meta, she's a really strong brawler. Okay, so now going into number 17, we have Piper, and I feel like Piper is actually a really strong brawler inside of this meta. The main reason for this is because of the nerf to Max. It's added an indirect buff to Piper, and Max just used to hold counter Piper way too much. you just couldn't run the risk of running a Piper in a max meta because of how speedy Max was and how versatile she was. Piper just used to really struggle. But anyways, Piper is basically good across everywhere right now. She's really good in gem grab on the long range maps. She's really good on Brawl on the long range maps. Basically every single long range map, Piper is one of the best options because you just know you're not really going to be facing a Max too often. But yeah, Piper is so strong in this meta. All right, guys, so going into number 16, we have Colette, and Colette is basically the best tank counter inside of the game. But although she's the best tank counter, she doesn't really deal with the other brawlers that well. That's the main reason why she's not close to the top 10, because I believe she's just not really as viable as the other tank counters. But inside of game modes like Heist or the longer range maps, she definitely can be really good. But there's just a lot of maps inside of a game right now that just have a lot of boxes, have a lot of bushes, and she just doesn't do well in those engagements. But yeah, as I said, she's the best tank counter. She can two-shot and super literally every single brawler inside of a game. So when tanks are meta, Colette is going to be really good. Okay, so now coming in at number 15, we have Barley. Barley is still a really strong brawler inside of a meta, even with the amount of tanks. The good thing about Barley, you can use both builds with him. Both gadgets and both star powers are really effective. So it just kind of depends on the map and the matchup you think you're going to face off against. Obviously, he can be really good against tanks with his slower gadget, and also with the damage, he can still be pretty good. I think the only brawler that he really struggles against are the likes of a Bull and El Primo, but just overall, he's still used so much inside of competitive. Okay, so next up at number 14, we have Amber, and Amber still is a really strong brawler even after the ammo change. I feel like she would have been a really bad brawler if the change was kept where you have 0 ammo on respawn, but now you get a little bit of your ammo back. I feel like she's definitely still really strong. The good thing about Amber is that you can pretty much use her everywhere, and against most matchups, she doesn't really have too many brawlers that actually hold counter. The only brawler I can really think of that actually hold counters her is Crow, but other than that, you can basically just use her as a safety option. Like, if you don't know what to go, basically Amber is going to be a good option because just depending on your matchup, you can use the star power that allows you to get a super, and you can win it a lot of the time. So yeah, Amber is a really strong brawler in this meta. Okay, guys, so coming in at number 13, we have Ruff. So Ruff, I don't believe it can be the strongest brawler on its own, but when you synergize it with a lot of these meta brawlers, it can be really strong. So I see a lot in competitive right now is that a lot of the times people just go Ruffs, give the power up to the carry brawler, and they'll be even more insane. And especially if your carry brawler is like a tank counter, the brawlers I can think of are like B. If you give B that power up, for example, she basically does like 4k with her supercharged shot. It's absolutely insane the synergies you can do with Ruffs. Sandbags also counter a lot of different brawlers inside of a game. Brawlers like Jean, brawlers single shot as well. It just counters so well with that gadget, and just overall I feel like you can pretty much use Ruffs in every single map and every single mode. All right, guys, so coming in at number 12, we have Sprout. So Sprout, even with tanks, is still going to be super strong. You can pretty much use him in every single combination, especially in competitive. A lot of times people just ban that Primo, and Sprout will just then become one of the best brawlers in the game. He's even, if played correctly, can be used against tanks as long as you're keeping your distance. He's just so good in so many different modes and matchups. He's one of the most used brawlers inside of competitive right now, and as I said, if you play correctly, you can basically 1v3 with this brawler. He's so strong, especially with his walls. You can just block off so many different choke points. Sprout is such an OP brawler in this meta. Okay, so now moving on to number 11 in the meta, it is going to be Sandy. So Sandy, before the gadget, I'd have probably put in the bottom 15. Sandy just really wasn't used at all, but with this gadget, you can make so many good plays. This gadget is so strong. Inside of game modes like Siege and Brawl, it is just amazing. You're going to be able to win up so many matchups as long as you play it correctly, as long as your teammates are ready to also get the kill as well. It's going to be such a strong thing about Sandy. I'm maybe overrating it a little bit, but I'm just seeing Sandy basically everywhere, especially as I said in Siege. What you can do also in Siege, you can use that gadget on the first bolt, and I would say 9 times out of 10, you're going to be getting that first bolt just because of how good this gadget is. I think Sandy is a very strong brawler in this meta. All right, guys, so now moving on to the top 10 brawlers inside of a meta. Starting off at number 10 with Rico. So Rico, it's been a very long time since he's even been close to the top 10 inside of a meta, but I think with this new gadget, and especially with tanks being meta, Rico is such a solid option on the lane, because not only can he deal with his squishy brawlers, the brawlers that aren't exactly tanks, he can also just absolutely wreck tanks. And with his new gadget that has came game out. It allows him to stay alive in so many clutch situations. It's really hard to kill a good Rico lane now. So as a Rico main, I absolutely love this. So I'm seeing Rico basically in scrims all the time right now. He's being used a lot in Siege, being used a lot in Brawl, inside of Heist. I just think he's really dominant. And with this new gadget, it's finally allowed him to become meta. Alright guys, so coming in at number 9, we have Tick. So even with all these tanks being so meta, I feel like Tick is still super strong, even with the gadget nerf. I just think he's just so versatile, especially in game modes like Bounty, where you can pretty much just use him in every single map. I just think he's a really annoying brawler. He's able to just block off so many different entry points to so many different maps. He's also got his super that he charges really quick. He's got his gadget that can push back tanks as well. And just overall, it's just so annoying and so strong. So jumping into number 8 in the meta, it is going to be Crow. So Crow lovers are going to rejoice at this news. I think Crow is so strong in this meta. He was already pretty strong brawler in previous metas, but now that tanks are strong, he offers a really unique hybrid. So he can use his slows on the tanks, allowing your tank counters to just destroy them, especially off their first engagements. But also he's got his jump to jump on those squishier brawlers, and I just feel like he's such an annoying brawler mechanically that you can pretty much use him on every single long range map, and you're gonna have a good result with him. So Crow, he's so strong in this meta. Okay, so next up at number 7, we have Serge. Serge is such a dominant brawler inside of this meta. Not really much change with him with the balance changes, but I just think he's such a strong lane. A good Serge can basically win every single matchup inside of a game, even brawlers that counter him like Ruffs and Tara. All you need to do is get rid of those gadgets and he's going to dominate, especially if you can get to the 3rd level. I just think he's such a good hybrid brawler. He's actually pretty good against tanks because of the damage that he does, and he can also, as I said, counter those other brawlers with his gadget. And once he gets to that 3rd level, it's just so dominant. He could be used basically on every single map, every single game mode. Serge is a dominant force in this meta. Alright guys, so coming in at number 6 in the meta, we have Tara. So Tara, just overall right now, is so strong. It's mainly because of her gadget. It counts so many different brawlers inside of a game and just allows you to basically win your lane with so much pressure with its gadgets. So yeah, Tara inside Gem Grab and Brawl is one of those brawlers where you can't really go wrong if you pick her, especially in Power League. You can just basically pick her. There's not a lot of brawlers that actually counter. The brawlers I can really think of that do really well against her. Brawlers like Ems and Throwers can be pretty decent as well. But yeah, she counters the brawlers like Jean and single shot brawlers because of those gadgets. There's not really a time that Jean can actually pull you as a Tara with these pets in your back pocket, and that's one of the reasons why she's so strong. It's just hard to get her out of those positions when needed. And honestly, seeing Tara in other game modes, like even like Siege inside of Heist, you can even be pretty good because she just hold counted so many meta brawlers. Okay, so now moving into the top 5 brawlers inside of the meta. Currently at number 5, we have Ems. Ems is just an absolute monster in this meta. Basically, you can just get away with using Ems pretty much everywhere because not only does she counter tanks so well, she can also just be really good against the other brawlers as well. I'm seeing Ems pretty much be used everywhere. She's basically the best counter to brawlers like El Primo and brawlers like Bull, who are just so dominant. I just use her, as I said, everywhere. I use inside of Brawl. She's really good, especially down the lane. If you're looking for like a lane option inside of like Brawl and Gem Grab, basically Ems, you just can't go wrong with her. Siege, she's going to be really good, and she does a lot of damage to the Ike as well. Pretty underrated on defense as well. Inside of Heist as well, if you leave an Ems on the safe, you might think, oh, it's only an Ems, but she just bursts down that safe so quick. I think Ems is so strong in this meta. Okay, so now coming in at number 4, we have Stu. So Stu, even with the knockback change, I think he's one of the best brawlers inside of a game, and basically every single pro player will agree on this. The reason why Stu is so strong, you can just basically use him with every single combination. A good Stu can dominate so well. You can use both star powers. I would recommend that 8% of the time you will want to be using the gas heal star power because it'll basically keep you alive for so long. But yeah, Stu in combination with so many different brawlers is so good, especially that gadget. You can use that gadget, put that into spawn, and basically your mid is going to have such a good time with his engagement because he's got that extra speed, and speed is such an underrated feature inside of Brawl Stars. But as I said, even with that knockback going, he basically just counters so many different brawlers. It's so hard to stop a Stu just dashing everywhere, healing up, and just basically countering so many different brawlers in the game. Stu is by far one of the best brawlers inside of a game. Okay, so jumping into the 3rd best brawler currently inside of a game, it is going to be Jean. So Jean, he's still so strong inside of a meta, even with the max nerf. That's kind of got rid of that synergy a little bit, but he still basically synergizes with every single brawler inside of a game, especially in game modes like Power League, where you're kind of looking for a brawler that doesn't get countered by many things. Gene is exactly that brawler. He doesn't really get countered by anything inside of a game. There are a few mechanics that can counter his gene pools, like rough sandbags, like Tara pets. That can be a little bit annoying for him, but overall, if you know what brawlers you can and can't pull, he's basically going to be so strong. He can free shot so many different brawlers inside of a game. You can even use him as a lane on some maps, as a mid on most maps as well. I feel like he's basically good on every single game mode right now. Gene is so strong inside of this map. Alright guys, so jumping into the second best brawler currently inside of Brawl Stars, it is going to be Belle. So Belle, there's not really anything that's changed about her since her release. She's still basically the strongest brawler inside of a game. The fact that she has like the same range as a Piper and a Brock, but has much easier mechanics to hit, consistently doing 1,500 damage with all of this. Her shots also ricochet onto people, and actually could be a really annoying mechanic because it can force enemies to just push back and try and run away from those ricocheted shots. She has one of the best gadgets inside of the game. Just literally, if that opponent goes onto that gadget, if you coordinate with one of your teammates, you're basically going to be able to get the takedown on that brawler every single time. You could just pop that gadget in a choke point, and it's going to be coming in clutch for the majority of the time. She's basically good on every single long range map. I think as long as she's not banned inside of competitive or Power League or whatever else, you need to use her on those long range maps because her mechanics just basically make her the best long range brawler inside of a game. Also, she's really good on game modes like Siege because you can use that super on the bot and basically going to get a perfect defense every single time. I just feel like Belle is so broken inside of this game. Alright guys, so no surprises here. Jumping into the best brawler inside of a game right now, it is El Primo. El Primo with this trait change is just way too strong inside of this game. He for sure needs a nerf. So if you guys are living it under a rock and you don't know what this change does, so basically every single time a tank takes damage, they're going to be receiving a bit of their super. So the main problem with El Primo was the fact that he just couldn't get close enough to get his super or his first super. But once El Primo gets that first super, he can just basically keep cycling over and over again. It's so easy to pick on any single matchup inside of a game. He's basically used everywhere in competitive, the most used brawler, the highest win rate. He's just so strong. You can basically even win matchups against your hold counter because of how strong his super is. You've got to be using El Primo in this meta. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you think of my tier list in the comment section below. As I said, quite a few pro players have helped me out on this list, and it's just taken me so long. I've had to space out recording over 2 days as well. The editing is going to take a long time on this one as well. It's spent so much time, so I really appreciate you guys liking the video, subscribing if you've not already, and also let me know down in the comment section below, as I said, what you think of this tier list, but also what tier list you want me to do in the future, because I want to do a bunch of these tier lists, but it doesn't seem like I get a ton of suggestions on this. So yeah, let me know down in the comment section below what you want to see. But that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, as you can see by the name, it is coming home today, hopefully. But yeah, that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.